This is why doing blood work is so important for managing your health. After finding a new PCP, we did blood labs shortly after the last procedure. And for that, obviously recovery has been going about as smooth as 30 grit sandpaper. The PCP saw my labs and called me back in for a review. He said there's nothing urgent, but definitely needed to discuss it. So those kind of fear of the unknown always concerns a person, of course. Now, I already knew that my body was feeling like garbage in a lot of ways, so I wasn't terribly surprised, but going through that blood work was actually pretty eye-opening, because nobody had ever done that for me before to this level. In fact, I haven't even had a PCP most of my life. I've only gone in when something's wrong. So having somebody that actually took the time to sit down and go through all the items, explain the numbers, what it means, was actually refreshing. The first thing that he noted was that I was negative for hepatitis C, and I'll explain why that's relevant in a little bit. The next things were that I was a little low on folic acid and B12, which could contribute to the lower energy levels I've been seeing. Not only did he cover the item, but he also helped with little notes of what I should eat more, such as dark fruits, which I do eat blueberries every day, but I know I need to eat a little bit more. He said dark greens, which I don't eat a lot of, to be honest. Shellfish, I do have shrimp now and then, so maybe I need to kick that up a little bit. I reminded him that at the time of the blood draw, I was pretty fresh out of the hospital, which meant I was even more messed up than I was at the time sitting there in front of him. I was barely eating at that time, so I wasn't surprised that numbers might be a little bit off. Cholesterol was a little bit high, and he talked about medicine options. I told him I'd rather get back to a normal routine of my eating and exercising before I started adding more meds to the cocktail I'm already on. On that note, I couldn't start lifting again normally until the blood in the urine went away. But unfortunately, every time the blood in the urine about went away, then the coughing would get worse. In fact, I had an episode where I had clear urine for a couple days, and then the cough got so violent that I actually threw up a couple times, and the next day it was like resetting the clock on blood in the urine again. I told him it would be great if he could give me anything for the cough, so he prescribed a couple medications for that, one for daytime and one for nighttime. If I can get the cough under control, then that means that the urine should get clear and I can start going back to the gym like normal. The testosterone wasn't terrible, but it was down about 24% from the 561 it was a year ago. I don't want to start TRT if I can avoid it, because once you start, you're pretty much stuck on that for life, and mine is not bad, just needs a little bit of boost, so we're going to try a couple things to see if we can get that number back up. Also, the fact that I'm not lifting weights right now could be a contributing factor to why the testosterone is a little bit lower too. So once I get back to the normal routine, that's why this is so important, then my body should stabilize. There's a lot of information on this sheet. So first, let's go to the positive. The electrolytes are looking really good, which is important for maintaining the best heart rhythm that I can with everything that's happened to this heart. Less good, the kidneys were struggling a bit, and he wanted to put me on Farxiga to help them. Now, I explained the disaster of the Farxiga and Entresto and told him I just don't want to touch those unless absolutely necessary right now, at least until I normalize and see where I am after this recovery. And then if we want to try Farxiga, maybe we can explore that at that time. More concerning is the liver. The AST was 5 times the amount he'd like to see it, and the ALT was 1.5 times the desired amount. This is where having past data for blood labs is so important too. I was able to dig back to the blood results I had from March of this year, pre-surgery, and it showed the AST and ALT were both in the 20s, which is great for both. So what that tells us is that whatever happened to the liver is the result of this last hospital visit. The circulation of the heart obviously has not been great, but there were also the medications taxing the liver that I had so many issues with. Plus, I had general anesthesia twice that week, so that's a lot for the body to go through and a lot for that liver to process. So yes, it's a problem, and that's why they're going to do some imaging on the liver and organs around it tomorrow to just see what's happening. He made a comment that the liver basically has this sludge that's coming out. It's just not processing fast enough, and that's what's causing these numbers to be so high. So they want to look at the imaging, see what's going on, and look for problems that they may be able to identify. And then from there, ideally, we can look at it and say, what's the problem here and how do we fix it? Now, the liver can regenerate itself. So if all this is just aftermath of the last hospital visit, whether it's from lowered heart function or from the GA that they gave me or from the meds that were so bad, ideally, this will eventually stabilize once I'm back in normal routine and recovered. But those are the kind of questions and answers we need to go through. Nothing else major in the labs except blood in the urine, which we already knew, and the proteins were a little bit high. That brings us to the current list of medications, which is nothing short of ridiculous. In fact, some people will say if you're on more than, say, 3 or 4 meds, you have no idea what the interaction of those medications are. The idea is that most of these medications are just temporary while trying to find my new normal post this glacial recovery from the last procedure, and they won't be permanent meds. First, I'm taking one med that is my choice, the Sizol, and that's just to rule out allergies as a factor with this stubborn cough, just in case. Other than that, everything on this list is doctor recommended or prescribed. Because I have a dicey heart rhythm, I'm already taking both an aspirin a day, more for stroke risk, and a magnesium pill to try to help stabilize the rhythm. New since the last procedure, however, is the Plavix. I've been on Plavix before, so it's hard to imagine that's causing any real issues. It's basically a blood thinner. So as I explained in one of the previous videos, you have this implant and you want the tissue to grow over the implant, but in this interim period where it's a foreign body, basically, your body's normal inclination is to try to clot to it, which you don't want because clots can then go to the brain and turn into strokes. So Plavix is a blood thinner that you take for 6 months after a procedure to minimize your stroke risk. Also from the meds video, you know they tried to put me on Farxiga and Entresto, which went horribly wrong and I quit taking, so I'm not even taking those right now. The PCP added a prescription for vitamin D2 to help with energy levels. I also do try to get out in the sun at least a few minutes a day, which is part of the important practice that you have to do to really get the benefit of that vitamin D. As I mentioned earlier, he added both a daytime cough syrup and a nighttime cough syrup with codeine, and the codeine does seem to help me sleep better at night, so kind of has an added benefit as well. He also added folic acid for energy levels. Anastrozole is an estrogen blocker that tends to kind of reset your pituitary gland after going through some trauma like this. Should reset whatever happened during the hospital visit, so that should bring up the test results a little bit. He also added a small dose of tadalafil just to boost a little bit of vascularity there. All of those are prescription meds, but he also put me on a lot of supplements based on my labs. Now I know that a lot of us already think of vitamins as just an ingredient for expensive urine, and if you already have enough vitamins, that's probably true. The idea here is that we're supplementing things because they're low. There's a vitamin B12 sublingual that he added, again for energy, and they did give me a shot while I was in the doctor's office just to kind of kickstart it all. He added red yeast rice, which is supposed to lower cholesterol, improve blood circulation, and improve digestion, and also some krill oil for lower levels of blood fats called triglycerides. And I think one or both of those last two is also supposed to be beneficial for liver function as well, since that's the big concern right now besides the heart. And this is why it's so important to have blood labs done regularly and have a PCP that's going to take the time to look through them with you, take them serious, be able to have those data points to see where changes happen and what do you do about the numbers that aren't where we want them to be. Just a few days ago, I got back home from my trip to Iowa. Baron and I basically took a road trip up there to see the folks once more, to have retirement parties both in Des Moines for the college degenerates as well as in Britt for all the local friends and family members. I wasn't exactly healthy enough where I should have been to be able to make that road trip because it took a lot out of me. However, with all the unknowns, I figured it was better to take advantage of that window while I had it to get up there. Now that I've been able to visit my parents and see people in the area, the next visit will be with the siblings. After that, I think I'm kind of done with visits and visitors. I don't have a lot of desire to feel obligated to play tour guide every weekend. And I really, at this point, all things considered, I need to focus on being as relaxed and healthy and happy as possible with my time. Now, if I get a wild hair and decide I'm gonna buy a motorcycle with a sidecar and go disappear with the dog for a while, that's fine. But I'm gonna do things I want to do, not because I feel like I have to do. As I mentioned earlier, tomorrow I go in for imaging on the liver and the other organs around it. And then in a couple weeks, I think, I go in for another echo to see how the heart function's doing and see what we can learn there. If you haven't done so, please click the link below to subscribe, hit the little bell for notifications, check out the YCC merch store, see if there's anything you like, and let's live for today.